Welcome to the Brain Factor Podcast with Joy and Laura, powered by Meridian Healthcare, approaching wellness with heart, one life at a time, one community at a time. This is a science-based conversation about real life. Our goal? To leave you with a few nuggets of wisdom, smile on your face, and maybe even a laugh or two. So let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to the Brain Factor. I'm Laura, and I'm joined here as always by Joy. And we are going to talk a little bit more about what we were talking about last month, right? We're gonna piggyback off of that a little bit. Last month, if you haven't seen or listened to that episode, we talked about body trauma. Surgery. Joy is still recovering from a shoulder surgery, and the impacts that a recovery like that can have on somebody emotionally, behaviorally, psychologically, right? But we touched on something that I wanted to revisit. It is now May. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and so one of the things that we touched on was how other people, your husband, your friends, your family had supported you, and what made a difference and what helped, right? Yeah. So I wanted to dive a little bit more into that, and maybe a little more generally speaking, like how do we help each other? Yeah. Right? How do we help our friends?
What do you do when your friends are struggling?
Right. Yeah. Right. We see people struggle all the time, and or we worry about people struggling all the time, and so often we don't say anything.
That's a really good place that you're at right now. Because I know, unfortunately, a number of people who have lost children. So It's about loss. And I know for me, what I feel when I have a friend who's lost a child or so, I can't even, I'm like, I don't know what to say. I say, I'm sorry for your loss if you need anything, but I feel like I don't even know how to talk to them anymore, because how do I have any business talking to them?
Right. What do I say?
Everything I say is
trite.
Just
it just
stupid.
feels trite.
I can't even mentally put myself into that place.
Right.
But two of my cousins unfortunately have, and I know one of them has said, one of the biggest things you lose when you lose a child is your friends and your support system, because people don't talk to you. They don't know what to say.
You're too difficult to speak to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And meanwhile, you're suffering and need people the most, right?
And that's what I really need, is for you to say something to me.
Right, yeah. Right. And loss, I think, is one of those, loss of any kind, especially a profound loss like you're describing. Loss of any kind is so difficult to talk about for people, and not always the person experiencing the loss. Oftentimes, that's their reality. They can talk about it. It's difficult for us to talk about, right?
Yeah, they're fine. They're waiting for
you. Right. We don't know what to say.
They're not fine. I just made that very light. I meant they're okay to talk to people and want to talk to their friends. I'm sure not
about their lost loved one, or about their loss, or what they're experiencing,
or just about what their day is like as time goes on, or just a regular old have your relationship there.
Well, and I think one of the things that's interesting is in any kind of trauma, I think there's an element of isolation, because and going back a little bit, I want to sort of lay a foundation here that when we're talking about being concerned about somebody, it's about their mental health, and how stable they are in that moment, and what they might need, and to get into a better place, right? But and when we look at mental health disorders or challenges, and we look at substance misuse disorders, right? Trauma is a major risk factor, and really puts people at risk for that. But the other side of that coin is not everyone who experiences a trauma is going to develop a mental health disorder or challenge, or a substance misuse disorder. So, but yet it's present in most of those cases. So I think that really underscores the importance of supporting people in the wake of trauma, because a lot of trauma is a part of life and is inevitable, right? Something like loss. We're all going to lose people that we love, right? Death is part of life. Yeah. People will die. We will grieve them. We will mourn them. But it's an abnormal normal event, right? It's still traumatic, and the support that somebody receives following a trauma can really make the difference between, between developing a challenge that might need some professional intervention and just working through the difficulty of that trauma and coming out on the other side of that. Which then begs the question, what does that support look like?
Yeah, exactly. And I know we've talked before on here about mainly a crisis, but it would apply to if you experience a trauma as well, because everybody experiences things differently.
Yes.
So you and I can experience the same exact thing, and it might be a 10 for me, and it might be a 3 for you.
Right.
So it's really individualized.
It's so individualized. And that's where stigma enters. We've talked so much about stigma here, but that's like, we could be in the same car and have a car accident.
Right.
And I could develop a trauma response, and you could work through that easier and it not hold you back, right? So it then that becomes really where does empathy enter the picture? Are we meeting people where they are, right? I think one of the things I've learned, I learned recently that I think will surprise some people is that it's really important not to push people to talk about their experience. There's a lot of misconception, like, oh, you need to talk about it. You can't bottle it up inside. You need to get it out. While that can be true, right? There's two things that I think are important for the everyday person, right? For us to understand as somebody who just wants to help friends or family, or
maybe just the offer of talking.
Well, the thing about it is, number one, not everybody needs to talk
Right.
to heal, right? That's a misconception. But when it comes to trauma, if you force that and then you're not a clinician and you don't know what to do with that.
It's like that can of snakes. You open
Sure,
it up and all
right.
kinds of
And that doesn't
stuff's
mean
gonna
don't talk
come
to
out.
people,
No,
but it means
it's just like the offer to talk to people.
Like, hey, I'm here if you choose.
If you
to
want
tell
to
your
talk,
story.
I'm here for you.
But pushing people is a common thing. Like, you need to talk about it. You need to talk about it. Avoid that. That's not really the best way to support people. But encouraging them to, instead of talking necessarily about their trauma, but encouraging them to ask for what they need, right? You get to have needs right now, reminding them that, and you talked about that on a different scale last month, right? About I'm independent and I don't want help, right? But somebody encouraging you, if you need help, ask for it. There are people who will help you.
Yeah.
And it can be practical help. It can be talking about how you're feeling, anything, what do you need?
I think it's important too, if you're the friend that's assisting, is because if you just say, if you need anything, let me know.
I'm never going to ask
everybody.
you.
Nobody's ever asked me for anything, not even my best friends. But if I call and say, hey, I was going to come and drop some food by, is that good? Or what do I have to offer to support you? You know? Do you have any doctors that during my recovery, my daughter would call me. She's like, hey, what doctor's appointments do you have this week? Do you need me to take you to any of them? You just that type of thing.
I actually had that experience not that long ago. I had a go for a test for a scan, and it was kind of scary. And I mentioned it when I was at brunch with some girlfriends, and every single one of them talked on top of each other, pulled out their phones, said, well, I don't have anything that day. Do you want me to come with you? I'll go with you. And I didn't really want anyone to come with me.
It was nice that they offered, but
I wanted someone to offer.
Yeah.
I really did. That filled my cup. That really helped. And
because you felt seen and heard.
Yes. And I also knew it was an option.
Yes.
Right. And then I got to make a choice. I can have someone come with me, or I can go by myself. And I went, you know what? That's okay. And those same friends texted me before and after, hey, good luck today. Hey, how'd it go? Right. And they didn't push the issue I'm showing up. Right. Yeah. They followed my lead on that, but still offered support. So I think that's really important when we're helping people too, is make the offers, but also hear the answers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Hear the answers. No, I don't want you to come. No, I don't want to talk about it. Right. But the offer itself can just be, and I love what you said, being very specific, can I help you with that specific thing? I think is important.
Yeah. I think specificity is good if you do have things in mind that you can help with.
The other thing I think that is really helpful when we're trying to support people post-trauma, right, to make sure that they move through this sort of properly, is really encouraging positive coping strategies and discouraging negative coping strategies, right? Just making sure that what they're doing is healthy and that they're taking care of themselves, and that they're not sort of falling into over reliance on some negative coping strategies, whether that's with substances, like where somebody who maybe occasionally has a glass of wine and then they're really doing that a whole lot right now, right? Like maybe now's not the time for that, right? Just kind of encouraging like what are you doing that's healthy for you, you know? And the same way you talked last month about, your dietitian saying like, well, how come you're not? Like, why? Like,
why?
This is what you need to be doing. Like, why? Why are you unmotivated? Why are you, really sort of gently challenging that. I think that can be really helpful. Whether or not there's any trauma that's still occurring. Right.
Oh, okay.
Making sure that like the danger, if they were in danger, that's over, that there's not any like secondary things that are happening.
Super important.
Yeah, everything's safe now. We've stopped whatever
was going on,
right.
You're going into.
Correct. So I think that's an important piece as well. And then, what do we do how do we have these conversations? That's the other thing too, going back to what you were saying.
Yeah, I think it depends too on your relationship with someone. So I have a friend that's going through something now, and she just recently said to me that she had a big thing coming up this week related to what's been going on.
Right.
And the first thing, we were talking and I said, are you seeing a therapist? Do you have a therapist? Yeah. Yep. I do, and I have an appointment set, and I'm like, okay, because then I feel a lot more comfortable if I know that they are dealing with that, processing that with a professional.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's a great question. And with this person, you have that relationship where you can jump right to that.
Yeah.
Right?
And I chatted
and
had my words and stuff. But,
Yeah. How can I support you during that
professional?
Process? Yeah. Because I am not one. Yeah. So, okay. And I think that's it's so interesting because we're laughing about it, but that's what prevents people from intervening.
Oh yeah.
Because we're not clinicians.
And I also said, after your thing's over, if you want me to, let me know, I'll come pick you up and we can go get dinner or something.
Right. And then really just allowing space, I think, at that dinner for whatever it needs to be.
Whatever it needs to be. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, great. Thank you. That won't happen probably, but if it does, I'll happily go fulfill. And that's what I was going to say a minute ago is when we were talking about offering what you can, that's also really important because when you say, oh, let me know if you need anything, someone might need something really big that you can't give.
Right.
So
like, oh, I didn't mean that.
Well, actually, I
Never
needed $50,000, or that I'm exaggerating.
No,
and just
but
joking about no conversation I've ever had right now, but that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. I think when we're kind of coming at it blind, like maybe we've noticed like changes in behaviors or we've noticed changes in mood and we're just very concerned about somebody. I think one of the most effective and respectful things that we can do is to really just lead with the headline, right? Yeah. I don't think we should make people who are already struggling guess what point we're trying to make.
Right.
So to just come right in hot, as uncomfortable as it is, like, hey, I'm concerned about you, and it's because I've noticed X, Y, and Z. I think that can be so effective because immediately that I am approaching you to express my concern. And I'm telling you why. I'm giving you my neutral observation about why.
Yeah, and I learned that from you a long time ago when I've changed, with mental health first aid.
Yes, that's something that's taught in mental health first aid.
And something like that. And I'm pretty direct with people now. Okay, X is going on. Is there something we need to talk about?
Sure, and that's the next piece. Following it with that direct question: do we need to talk about this? Do you want to talk about it? Is there anything that you want to
someone to talk about?
Yes, I love that. I think there's two other questions, and this shows up in mental health first aid as well. That can be really beneficial when we're trying to support friends and we're trying to navigate these conversations. If we can slip in asking them how long they've been feeling that way, if they start to share how they're feeling, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm so sorry. How long have you been feeling this way? Because it's a very different conversation if they say like, oh, I don't know, since like last week versus July. Right? Like that's a totally different conversation. That's a different level of pain and that's a different level of impact because when we look at like depression and anxiety and those things, there's a normalcy to some of that, but duration and impact is where we really see like that it might not fall into that range of normalcy anymore, and we might need some professional assistance if we've gone on for, they say, I think what Mental Health First Aid is teaching right now is 2 weeks or more for depression and anxiety, without really being able to get out of that, that might need professional intervention. And with trauma, it's 4 weeks. You get a little more time with trauma, but really looking at like duration and then impact, ability to work, carry out daily activities, and have satisfying relationships. That's, how much is it impacting those areas of a person's life, and I think that's what we want to look at. So asking somebody, how long have you been feeling this way? The other thing is, and you already touched on this, is asking, is there anybody else you've talked to about this? Because it's a different conversation with like, I see a therapist 3 times a week, versus I've never breathed this to a living soul before. You're the first one.
Different approach to those.
They're going to need
two
some
answers,
different hand holding and some different things, and and so I think that brings us to like, okay, now we've asked the questions. Now they're talking. How do we help them?
Yeah.
And
I think it's an invitation to help them at that point, especially when you're the person that they've trusted in this whole time.
Yep. Yeah. And I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is not to make any assumptions about what they know about professional help, right? Because some people just don't know all the different types of professional help that's out there.
There's a lot of community support. And there is professional, like you can always start talking to your primary care about anything, and they can help direct you to resources. There are crisis lines that you can call. There are community programs in your area. If you have like a United Way, you can dial 211 for all kinds of support and help. But I know something you wanted to talk a little bit more about today is the 988 mental health number that's available. Maybe the last 2 years did that
couple
come
of
out?
years it's been out.
A couple of years it's been out.
And
but
it
that's
is
a
nationwide
number, and I'll let you fill in
is,
on
and
that.
it's 988, and the intent is for it to be used similarly to 911, so you can get a response, someone to come to you, right? So it is 911 for mental health. It is 988. We're going to put that on the screen. We're going to put that on. There's going to be a resource list, by the way, at the end of this episode, so look for that. We will add a screen with some of that information on there. But what's different about 988 that I really like,
a regular, not
emergency,
an emergency or crisis line or a prevention line where you can call in and talk about it. There's
so 988 is
here.
all of it, and that's what I love about 988. We can call 988 in a crisis and get someone to physically respond to our location. I can call 988 if I'm having a crisis and I just want to talk to somebody. I can call 988 if Joy's having a crisis and I want to get advice on how to talk to her and how to help her. And so that, I think, is really different. Like, you can call 988 for anything that has to do with mental health. Hey, I'm worried about my friend. Can you talk me through this? Hey, I'm worried about myself. Hey, I'm in this full-blown crisis and I need to go somewhere. Hey, I don't need to go anywhere, but I just really need to get over a hump tonight. Hey, something happened that I want to debrief with someone. Like, you can call 988 for all of that and more. And it's 24/7, 365. And again, you can get a physical response the same way you would calling another crisis number, where like an ambulance would come or a police officer or whatever.
But you don't have to get a physical
but you
response.
Don't have to.
Yeah.
And I love that, because prior to that, our options were crisis line, where we get some information and talking, or 911, where we get a emergency responder who may or may not be knowledgeable about mental health issues.
If you're lucky and you live in an area where there's co-responder programs where clinicians and law enforcement officers work together and ride together.
And we film, where we're filming and recording this podcast is in Alachua County, Florida. And I know a lot of our viewers and listeners are from Alachua County, Florida, because that's where we started, right? And in this county, there are are co-responding
Yes.
teams. So the county sheriff's department has co-responders, meaning a mental health professional rides along. Gainesville Police Department, which
Yep.
is the county seat, has co-responder teams as well. And of course, Meridian is based here, and Meridian covers more than just this county. A lot of the
Yes.
Northeast Florida area, but they have 24/7 mobile response teams, as well as crisis stabilization units in a couple of locations for youth and adults.
Yeah.
And they also power this podcast. So thank you,
do.
Meridian, for that. But
Yeah.
and for all that you are offering in the community as well.
Yeah.
So
And they also serve the entire state through telehealth.
through telehealth, yep, absolutely. I think they have 9 campuses now, locations. So something
Not
like
sure.
that. I'm
Last
not 100%
time
sure.
I checked in, it was like 11, but
It's
I'm
growing,
not,
whatever it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's a lot of ability to reach them, and then if you're outside of this area, there are a lot of community behavioral health centers like Meridian that that do offer similar services, the same services. In the state of Florida, I know that every county has a mobile response team, and some of it's done through an independent provider, like it is done here in Alachua County, or it's done through like the county crisis, department or whatever. But if you're looking for that in your area, even if you're outside of the state of Florida, just being able to Google your county name
Right.
and the keywords mobile response team will get you some information on that. So that's a good resource to know before you need
could I
it.
call 988 and ask them if there's
Yeah,
mobile
absolutely.
response or
Well, they would be connected to it. So that's kind of how that works.
in my county? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that they would then launch the mobile response. So is
Correct.
that the overlay?
Yep, that
the-
and potentially even just emergency management, right? EMS.
Yeah.
But having that warm handoff and knowing that it is a mental health issue
Yeah.
that they're walking into
Yeah.
can make all the difference,
All the difference,
between
yes.
effectiveness for those first responders. And so that's a really important thing. But even being able to talk to our friends, I mean, beyond this stuff about like, hey, there's social workers, there's group therapies, there's family therapies, there's psychologists, psychiatrists, like knowing the difference, a licensed counselor. Maybe you have, maybe you're talking to somebody who is a college student. They've got resources on their campus, right?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things out there that we can, that when folks are struggling, they don't have the mental clarity to find that stuff for themselves. And that's where, as friends, we can be very, very effective.
Yeah, there's a neat resource. Our community, the Alachua County, is I feel like a little bit progressive in this whole body, whole mind, community support type of thing. And I was just Googling because I was looking for a 5K. Can't run yet still because my shoulder. But I found out that like our downtown area, here it's called Depot Park. They have a free 5K that's timed every Saturday morning that you just go, volunteers run it, and you can have your run. It's part of their health and mental health initiatives to help people. That's why it's existing.
Which is great.
You can just go down there and
I love
the
that
physical activities.
you're saying too that it's just as important to help people find resources that are non-professional resources,
Yeah.
that are self-help and support strategies,
Yeah.
like wellness and health.
How do I meet
and
people? I don't have any friends.
Right.
Well, I know you like to run. Why don't you go?
Why don't you go do this,
Yeah.
right? And looking and knowing what's happening in your community is a really good first step
Yeah.
for that. So, so we are going to put resources, like I said, at the end of this episode. And, I guess the big takeaway for me is don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to talk to your friends who, if you think that they're struggling. You truly can make all the difference in the world by getting over your fears and concerns and really reaching out to help folks.
Yeah, because you're usually, you're closer. The professionals don't know anything until we as, coworkers
Peers.
or friends,
Yeah.
peers, neighbors mention something.
Yep. So take care of each other. Learn about the resources in your community for Mental Health Awareness Month, and we will see you here next time. Thanks for listening to The Brain Factor. Joy and I are so thrilled to be having these needed conversations. We'd love to hear your feedback on this episode, so if you could drop a comment or leave a review with your thoughts or any requests that you may have, it would be appreciated. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Living a healthier and happier life starts with one step, and we're excited to be on this journey with you. Until next time.